Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 3 of Sky Gardens. Today we are going a little bit back in time. So if you've seen yesterday's episode, this was the second one where we built the capuchin monkey habitat. In case you haven't seen it, there's a little card for you on the top right now, so you can click and come back afterwards. Now today in this episode we're going to tackle this Jaguar house, which has been mysteriously placed already here last time. But honestly, I just did this obviously prior and didn't record that mainly because this has been already the build of the Jaguar house, so I did the modern Jaguar house as a one-off build, but I decided to bring this up here into the sky as one of the main attractions that people drive to go there. Now there have been a lot of issues here, and you can see me struggle a little bit with the pathing. Well, a little bit might be a bit of an understatement. That's the word I was looking for. The path game. So yeah, following on this, I figured that I need some changes on the Jaguar house, and you guys did give me a lot of feedback, and I left this first struggle in to really get into the episode. Now the biggest issue you guys figured out on this build was mainly the security on the front side of this habitat, and I'm gonna tackle this later on in this episode. First of all, we're going to look how I'm going to implement this into the Sky Gardens. There will be a bit of a backstage area that we build, and then in the later stages, as I said, there will be a bit of the wonderful area that is now in front of it, where we build a little cage, which is hugely inspired. I think it was Copenhagen Zoo, which I took the inspiration from, but I'm not entirely sure if it was that zoo. However, I had a specific inspiration that led me to do this, and yeah, here's me again thanking you guys that you gave me all these ideas and all these things as a little hint, because honestly I tried my best to make it as realistic as possible, but at the end of the day, I went also a little bit with the views and, you know, making it as beautiful as I could. But at the end, I ended up doing it not as beautiful as it could be, just to make it more realistic. And that's actually what we're doing right up here in this wonderful area. You can see it's insanely crazy how much I struggled with the pathing. And eventually I ended it and I was like, hey, come on, I'm just going with it. And then basically I rewatched my speed build afterwards, and I saw how many mistakes I made in here. But yeah, this leads again to the fact that I really hope that Frontier is somehow at some point really giving us the option to include pathing into the blueprints or the habitat builds, because it's always, you know, I try already to build as simple as possible with the path, but even me, who has done this himself, is having a huge struggle to build the pathings exactly how they're meant to be. Now, really, that is something that should not be, and I really hope that this can be fixed in the future. Now, the cool thing is that you can implement habitats in the way they are. You can even implement terrain, which is insane. But yeah, again, there is so much that needs to be changed. But hey, it is just for the better when we have at some point path. But till this day, we have to work with what we have, and that is obviously this over here. Now we are going to build the backstage area now for this little bit of yeah, it's not really backstage because it's still everything on the rooftop. But I still wanted to have a bit of an area where only staff members can go. Also, security-wise, this is going to hold you off the edges of that wonderful thing. I do still need to make sure that we have a certain security ring that goes around the Sky Garden Zoo. And here's me also again thanking you for all the feedback regarding the realism aspect of this Sky Gardens. You've sent me a lot of pictures of different projects that have been realized on rooftops of actual buildings in the real world, and I think I need to change my opinion a little bit. This project may well be very realistic indeed, if we got the money, and if we just assume there is the money to do this, which, well, there is, and then we can definitely say this would be possible. I mean, the scale of it is just ridiculous, and I assume that this would potentially be done in Abu Dhabi or in Dubai. I think these are the two locations where I would totally guess that this could be done. And also money-wise, but also like project-wise, I think that would be the realistic location, and not like in South America, as I said, in Rio de Janeiro or Buenos Aires. But you know, you just find the right investor, and then the location does not really matter as long as the weather is doing it okay, which it would be there. So we can just assume that we found a very fortunate investor who is happy to help us out and give us the chance to build the Sky Zoo. Now, it's called Sky Gardens, obviously, so it's not only a zoo, but also a garden, and we will tackling this in the next live stream. I'm I was trying to think about so many different animals, and I think again you guys gave me enough ideas which kind of animals go here. So I definitely decided for going for some of the lemurs. We're definitely going to have the different other animals from the DLC in here. So the anteater, as I said, is already in. I will also look into the llamas, definitely. The bird's tapir or bear's tapir will definitely be part of it. And also, as you guys mentioned, the giant Galapagos tortoise will also be part of it. And I think we are also already then coming to a certain limit. I think we are just having maybe one of the tigers up here. That would fit potentially also, I guess. The Bengal tiger might be doing it. But yeah, that's about it. And now we are coming to what you've seen already in the last episode, or mainly you haven't really seen it. I have hidden it away nicely so that you haven't seen it too often. But I did do kind of a little infinity pool build, which I think was the most important thing to do, because that is just the one thing you did expect from a Sky Gardens. And we will have this feature a few times. I even thought about making one overhanging one, at least trying to do kind of to fake one. I think with the new glass pieces we could try to fake it by just bringing the whole thing as close as we can to the ground and to the border, and then we just build it from there with the glass pieces, and we just imitate the glass layer. I think that could work if I'm just doing a little bit of intelligent water work there and some water effects. That could very well be working, but we will see. Maybe it looks good, maybe it doesn't. We will see how this turns out, but I got an idea how this could be done. So yeah, that's just me already giving you a little bit of a hint what might be in the future. Now, as I've asked in yesterday's episode, if you like a bit more of a structure in an episode, I made myself some notes for today's episode, because there's not that much happening. To be honest, it's just a revamp of the Jaguar house, which I think is very important. And here's me now talking about exactly what I meant. I just teased that at the beginning of this episode already. And it is mainly about one thing, and that is security of the jumping locations for the animals. Now, the animals are somewhat very, very good when it comes to jumping. And also in the game, the cats do some majestic large jumps. I'm just fooling around here a little bit. Sometimes the jumps are a bit funky and a bit crazy, but well, in real life, these animals can jump up to 5 meters. And it depends on how much the incline is and whatever, but they can jump pretty high. So indeed, what you mentioned is that there is a certain problem for them to jump. Like with my habitat, there is a problem because these animals cannot jump simply out of it in the game, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't be doing it in real life. And if we assume that this build should be also real life inspired, it's basically what we have. Now, before we actually do this, here's a little bit of a funky thing. We need to somehow connect this area to the actual ground level, and that's what's happening over here. I will definitely fake some elevators here. You can see these are the two connectors here, but and then we have the staircase of the death, or lethal staircase, if you will. So my guests do need a lot of good stamina, as you can see. This is a very much the stairway to heaven. It's really crazy. You really have to take this staircase up because we don't have elevators in the game. But yeah, as I said, I will nicely hide them away, and then it almost looks like people are going into the elevator, and just when you go up, there will be people coming out of the elevator, and that looks kind of cool because it does give you the effect of an elevator. But honestly, there is just this insane staircase afterwards. So yeah, it's crazy. But now let's go back to the actual habitat. I did already give you the explanation why I was doing it, and now let me just quickly do a break in my commentary. Well, actually you don't see the break, but I'm just going to quickly check where my inspiration actually came from. And here we go, it is the ever awesome Rotterdam Zoo, the Artis Royal Zoo in Rotterdam. Yeah, well, if you're watching the Lady Designer, you know that she is also taking huge inspiration from that zoo. I didn't know that this is actually the zoo I was getting the inspiration from, because mainly I have a folder with a lot of images from Zoo Chat, and most of the images are named by the zoo that the images are from, but these were unfortunately just named by the kind of photo file name. It was a kind of Canon photo that has been made, and it's like Canon 0170 blah blah blah, you know, and that's why I didn't know exactly what it was. I assumed it was Copenhagen, but it isn't. It is the Rotterdam Zoo. So very cool. Actually, I've been there then, but maybe not when this has been already installed. So I think it's a more modern installation, which actually it looked like. So yeah, it's very cool. It has this slightly tilted and at the same time rounded big steel component where the nettings are hanging down from. Now, obviously the netting, and this is again a point on my list here. The netting is the main issue I had. I did do some of the testing beforehand, so I was actually trying some things prior to the Jaguar house, and I was doing a lot with the ropes, and I was trying to make like a nice little rope net that goes across the habitat. But as you guys know, the ropes are now climbable in the game and the animals can jump. And the funny thing is, like, you can see this glass wall over here that divides the habitat from the pathway, and in the game as it is right now, the animals do not jump over. However, the moment you put a netting to this area, the animals will see that as climbable area, and for whatever reason, then they are able to jump there. So that was a little bit of a finicky thing. No matter where I put the netting, I always got into some weird problems with animal escaping, and then once I thought I figured it out, it changed again because the animals got too small, and the animals got, you know, got older and got smaller and got bigger, and different sizes matter in the game as well. And yeah, well, at the end of the day, when these animals have different sizes, that means they can jump higher or not as high. Or if the animals are smaller, for example, they can reach areas that they couldn't reach prior, or I should say, which they cannot reach when they're older or bigger. Now, it really leads to a lot of issues in here, and I ended up with having no nettings and no structure at all for the sake of the looks of it rather than the realism aspect, because the netting just didn't work. And yes, I ended up again now with the steel mesh netting, which I make out of these iron fences, which is, I don't know. I gotta say though, it looks cool at the end, but it doesn't look realistic, you know? It has to be way thinner to work, and I cannot really work with the steel mesh fence of the game, because I would need to put it there, and it kind of looks dull, and you would need to kind of build it in a weird way. So nothing really that fulfilled my desire to make a good looking, modern looking outside fencing, if you will. And I ended up now using this one because I feel like I am quite happy with how it looks. We go a bit more for the security and realism aspect of it, but at the end, I must say it's not my favorite by far, because it does block so much of the view. You will see me now tackling this by deleting a lot of stuff and making sure that all looks nice and tidy, but yeah, it really doesn't look too good, I should say. But you will get a screenshot at the end, so you can judge yourself. But this is what I did. I did a little revamp here. I made sure that this habitat looks good where it is right now, and I made sure that this is now a bit more of what you guys were commenting and a bit more realistic by having the netting. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think, and I think there's not that much more to say. It's just a short episode for today because the next one will be pretty packed again, but I wanted to really make sure that I have this little bit of change. By the way, for those of you with the eagle eyes, they have already seen that there is the other habitat already in here, so I made a little jump in terms of the progress. I made this first backstage area before I made the capuchin monkey house and then habitat, and now this is made after the capuchin monkey habitat, and yeah, you can see that. However, I hope you had a good episode, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next one as well. Until then, have a great time, stay safe everyone, and goodbye.